What's up everybody, welcome back to Camera Exchange. So I have the brand new Panasonic S1 with the 24 to 105 f4 lens. And I really wanted to take this out to see what the people who are buying the kit would actually experience. And I wanted to put it to a hands-on test and see just how well this Panasonic outfit does. So let's go ahead and get started and see what this camera can do. Starting off, it is a full frame Panasonic, which is awesome. Now, they're finally moving a little farther away from that micro four thirds kind of limited system to full frame mirrorless, which is beautiful to see. And it helps a lot for your video and your photo industry. So starting off, it is a 24 megapixel full frame sensor. Not only that, it does have amazing video output as well built into the camera. So starting off right out of camera, you have 420, 10-bit capability, or you can do an optional firmware upgrade to bring you to 422 10-bit output, which does coincide well with the full-size HDMI port, which you can hook up to any kind of recorder or even hook up to an external monitor to do any kind of shooting. So I think this camera is a really nice hybrid as far as your photo and your video capable shooting. I gotta say I really like it. Now, the next part I really want to touch about is the ISO. This camera is stated, as far as the specs go, 100 to 51,000 ISO, just native. Now, the next part I do want to touch about, and it's probably gonna be the final thing here, is the stabilization on this camera. The stabilization has been great, and I really want to try it with some handheld video shooting because that's just an awesome thing to be able to do. If you don't have to bring a stabilizer with you and you can just do a quick little shot, all handheld, the dual stabilization does a very good job with that. So your lens is working with your camera, they're both talking and you're both doing great. So I'm gonna give that a shot here in a second and just see how nice it does work. So let's go ahead and get started. The main reason I picked the spot that we're at right now is because I saw a huge opportunity to test ISO specifically. And I've heard this camera was great on ISO, and I went ahead and put it to the test, mainly in this area because it's a huge area of mixed lighting situations. It's got some very dark areas compounded with some very light areas, and it's this whole little mix going on. So I really wanted to test out this spot, and I gotta say the Panasonic S1 did an amazing job. I can't say how much I love the ISO capabilities on this camera. I see a lot of spec sheets that claim these outrageous numbers of ISO, and they just don't perform. They just don't get to that level. This camera so far has just blown any other camera I've really shot and done a hands-on review on away. The ISO capability so far, I'm shooting at 12,800 in this spot, and I don't see any degradation of my photos. I'm not seeing much noise at all. I mean, these are all usable photos, so I'm just in love right now. And I'm gonna keep testing the ISO capability because right now, as far as in body, the camera states that it can take anywhere from 100 to 51,000 ISO. Now it is expandable out from 50 to 204,000 ISO. So I'm really gonna keep testing and see just how high I can go before I start to lose quality and I start to see it in my blacks. So I'm gonna keep shooting and let's move on. All right, so now's the time to talk about the overall ergonomics of this camera. And I gotta say, it feels great. It's very evenly balanced with the kit lens. Now, I think the 7200 would be pretty front heavy, which most all 7200s are. And I wanna say their 50mm would probably be pretty balanced as well. It looks to be about the same size, maybe a little smaller, but overall width and all that should be about the same. But as far as your weight and functionality, this camera feels really nice and it just kind of hugs your hand. This grip just really feels good. Now, when we're actually moving to the back of this camera and all this right here, so your toggle switch, your autofocus selector from single to continuous to manual, And even your AF on, display, and your turn dial are all at the thumb's reach. And it feels really nice when you actually have your thumb on there. You can actually move pretty much around this whole area really well and very effectively and quick. So it makes for a very fast and functional workflow, at least for me. Now, when I was switching between single shot to continuous focus and changing my drive modes from shooting video to shooting photos at the same time, everything felt and worked perfectly. I didn't struggle to move around this camera and actually operate it. It all felt pretty nice. Now, I've used Panasonics before, but the overall feel of this one is a little different from your typical Panasonic. Just to be able to pick it up and just feel natural is a really big thing for me, and I really like Panasonic for making this camera so ergonomically sound. Now, the last thing I do want to talk about is this viewfinder. I love the iCup style viewfinder. It feels great. It really shoots nice, and this thing is insanely sharp. I've been pixel peeping a lot of my shots, especially in our little ISO area, and this thing did fantastic. The place I want to start now is going to be your overall video capability and also the stabilization system inside this camera and kind of how they cooperate together. So starting off with stabilization, I gotta say the dual stabilization system, while it was working great with photo, I had some issues with video. I felt like it was kind of fighting me, going back and forth, but that could have just been me. It could have very well been my hands that it was trying to fight so much that it just kind of jumbled all over the place. I'm not sure. I'm gonna keep testing and see what I can do with that. But I really want to talk about your 4K capability with this camera. So a real cool thing is that in body you have 420 capability, which is 10-bit output. And you have that at 60, 30, and 24 frames, as well as all your 1080p frames, and you can even go to the higher frame rates, so you can actually convert down to slow-mo, or you can super sample up into some slow-mo 4K, which is pretty cool capability coming out of just one camera. Now, the big benefit to having a full-frame sensor to shoot video is, one, your ISO capability raises, as does your overall dynamic range. It ends up looking really nice, and it gives you that really cinematic feel. And it lets you pretty much do a lot with the camera. It makes it very versatile. So once again, coming back to being a hybrid camera, Panasonic did a great job in production of a photo/video camera that does both parts extremely well. Last thing I want to talk about is going to be the autofocus system on the S1. And I gotta say, I loved it. It really performed great, and I was a little skeptical with it being just a contrast autofocus system. I always feel like I'm gonna miss those high-speed segments, and this camera really just outperformed any thought I had in my head about just a contrast-based autofocus system, especially because Panasonic put in the new AI system and their depth by defocus system. So this thing actually focuses at 0.08 seconds focus acquisition, which I was kind of blown away because it's not phase detect. So it's not, in my head, supposed to be crazy fast, but it was. And it constantly got every shot I was looking to get. Now, where it really threw me for a curve was that the 480 frame per second refresh rate on the viewfinder in your continuous mode looked really weird. And it threw me for a huge curve when I started shooting it because I thought I was missing the shots. I thought the autofocus system wasn't hitting. And so I wasn't shooting. I was actually afraid to shoot. I was like, oh, it's not hitting it, it's not hitting it, it's not hitting it. And then I played with this some more and I noticed it's hitting all these shots. It just looks like it's missing. So for me, that was a really weird thing to see. I'm used to seeing autofocus points shuffle around continuously and hit all the targets I'm trying to follow, and the screen doesn't really do anything. I don't see that actual focus moving around. Whereas with the S1, you actually see what's going on, which can be cool, but if you're just starting out, it can really throw you for a curve like it did for me. But all in all, I gotta say the autofocus system performed great. I love it. The AI system is very fast learning and actually hits that eye autofocus really well. I was kind of blown away with that. And all in all, it's just a great hybrid camera. I can't see any reason to knock this camera. It performs all out in everything I did. And from video capability to photo capability to resolution to being a full frame Panasonic now. So they've gotten away from that kind of dated Micro Four Thirds system, which I love to see. I love full frame and I love the dynamic range it gives me. So I'm just overall crazy excited that Panasonic finally brought out a full frame camera, and it definitely is going to be a future purchase for me. I think I really fell in love reviewing this camera and I want to keep shooting it. So all in all, that's all we really have on the Panasonic S1. Make sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram, show us some love on there, and also subscribe to the channel and like the video. And if you feel like we missed anything, comment down below or tell us that we're doing a great job. So we'll catch you on the next video.